Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Goodbye Bullshit, Hello Happiness, Young and Empowered Edition with Samir. Samir, thank you for being here again. Nice to see you.
Thanks for having
And
me.
yes, anytime. This is great. And he's our resident young expert. And today we wanted to discuss victim mentality and that idea of going through life sort of in one aspect blaming the outside world or circumstances for where you're at, and also part of that victim mentality is, oh, poor me, this happened to me. And a lot of times we even come out of that victim mentality. I think something has happened, we've been victimized by but by telling a story in a certain way, we keep ourselves in the place of the victim still and not in a place that we have overcome that and we're beyond it. And Samir, what are your thoughts? What have you seen in the younger generation that's happening?
Well, victim mentality, I like this subject a lot because not to be insensitive to anybody else's situation, because I understand everybody goes through what they go through, whether it's in silence or they vocalize it, but we tend to, let our problems consume us and like to blame the outside versus reclaiming our power and doing what it takes to come within and fixing our situations. And I think victim mentality is starting to be more prevalent now more than ever because as you could look around, you see there's problems after problems, and there people left and right on social media. They get canceled, and there a lot of people can go in groups and come up with you know things that are outside of yourself that could get you to think that you have no power over your situation, which in fact you do. And um, I really think it's imperative to start by realizing that you have the power to change your situation. Realizing that it begins and ends with you. So taking that introspective route, look at it from within versus from outside in, and take inventory of how you could take control over the situation.
Um, I like what you said about reclaiming your power. And I
Hmm.
think that's something in a place where you have had the role of victim. And I think everybody in a way can relate. I mean, I can relate for sure. Throughout my life, a lot of things happened. I definitely had that place that I was like, poor me, why is this all happening to me? Why is it
Hmm.
always me? And there is a shift that takes place when you're not seeing that life is against you, because when we get into that mode we're like, no, life is against me, and we see this life as this big huge thing, and like you said, I don't have any power. Look, the power, something outside of me has that power.
Hmm.
And I think for me, for myself, and what shifted was that I started shifting to a place of where no, life is not against me. Everything is happening for a purpose.
Right.
And that let me, for even for a little bit, not to blame anyone, not to blame the circumstance, not to blame the situation, and not to blame the universe for, like, I'm always getting this crap sort of the way.
Right.
And shifting to, okay, what is it inside me? What can I do, like you said, from inside out? If
Right.
Let me just for a second forget that, and let's just say that I was the one that chose all of this, because I
Right.
think that was like one of the hardest steps, to say, what if I picked all of these things that happened to me?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I was, you know, anybody you ask that has gone through something, especially if somebody outside or some force outside put that situation in place in your head, then you're like always saying like, what do you mean? What do you mean I chose this? I didn't
Mhm.
choose this. I didn't choose all these things happen to me.
Right.
And that's when we got to step back, sort of the internal, bigger than this reality awareness, that I am not just this physical form that came here to experience this. All those things that happened were part of my experience. And yes, I chose those for a reason in this lifetime. I might not know what that reason is right now, but let
Mhm.
me trust that that's the reason. So there was a lot of different factors that went into it. But you're right. I think it was one of the first things was for me to stop giving power to the outside world and bringing that power inside and saying, okay, let me start here and move back. But that was my experience. What was your experience? Did you have any experiences where you did say, poor me?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I've been there, and you know what really helped me was the reframing my situations and like
Mm,
reshaping them and using the power of words too. So like instead of
yes.
this is happening to me, but versus it's happening for me. So this is actually happening for me versus to me. So I was playing around with words and like and I was being an observer of the self talk I would have, because you know when you're in that victim state and you don't understand why all
Mhm.
things are going bad, and you think to yourself like, why me, like, oh, I must suck, oh, I'm not smart enough. I observed those thoughts and I reframed it and I changed it. So first off, I understood the power of words, because whatever you do say to yourself, you will believe on the subconscious level and on the conscious level.
Mhm.
So subconsciously, I would be aware. It wouldn't didn't happen right away, but I'd be aware of the negative things I was saying to myself, and then I'd change them. And then instead of, damn, I'm tired, I have to work out still, I'd say I get to work out. You know, my
Mhm.
body is functioning at a level where I'm given the grace to go work out. Or, you know, my room is dirty, I have to clean it. And I would be like, well, I have my own space to call my own, so that's a privilege. I would just reframe little things that would kind of, you know, it's easy to point the finger and be like, oh,
Mhm.
why do I have to do this? Why is this all happening to me? And almost, I'd like to call it like subconscious reprogramming. I reprogram myself to, instead of be like, woe is me, you know, life is misery. I just, small things that I noticed myself stooping back into that negative self talk, I just reshaped it until I believed it. And it helped me do that internal work.
It's I the reframing is really an important point here. And again, everybody has to see how that reframing works for them. And another word, I think, what you were saying is finding places that you were grateful and seeing your blessings. Well,
Mm-hmm.
I have this room. I'm grateful for this room I have. I'm blessed to have this room. Now that I'm blessed to have this room and I'm grateful for this room, what do I want to appreciate in this space? And
Exactly.
the other thing, power of word, I love that. That's like one of the biggest homeworks I give to my clients. And I always say, you know, I tug on my ear and I say, you know, tug on your ear throughout the day, because that gets you to listen to the words that are coming out of your mouth, either actually coming out or internally you're saying it. Because at some point, when you start tuning in, you pick out the words that you're using, and all those words have energy. People don't realize how much
Mm-hmm.
those words have energy. And this is not about being positive or negative. is the energy that you have put into those words, the meaning you have put into those words. And then you get to identify which words do I want to use at this point to identify myself with. And
Mm-hmm.
mantras, I think, however you want to say it, call it mantras, prayers, they're a great tool.
Affirmations.
Affirmations, yeah, great
Mm-hmm.
tool for that reprogramming that you were talking about, because it's repetition. You keep saying
Mm-hmm.
it. The only caveat there is that you have to connect with the words you're saying. So
Yes.
use the words that mean something to you, that you feel connected to. Like, you know, I always say, don't say I love my body and then internally like, yeah, no, I really hate my body, but okay, I love my body.
Yeah.
Pick something else. Pick, instead of saying I love my body, pick something smaller that you can say I love you to. Like if it's your eyes, I love my eyes. I have beautiful eyes. I'm grateful for my eyes. Or if it's your hair, something that's not triggering or doesn't have that power and you can easily connect with and say it. And this can go, and there I have clients that come, I've had clients that have had um when somebody wanted like really to be pregnant and they wanted to have a baby and they've been trying
Mm-hmm.
and trying and trying and it hasn't come to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're not, or they got pregnant but they several pregnancies they lost the baby.
Mm-hmm.
So what would you say, how would you reframe that for them? I'll just let you get started and tell you what I did.
Well, if in me particularly, I would look at the experience. I wouldn't. So I talk to my father about this exact scenario all the time, and I haven't been in a situation personally, but when you desire something so much and you put so much energy into what if this doesn't happen, you kind of direct energy into the stuff that you don't actually want to happen more than giving the willingness and the openness for the gift to receive the gift. So rather than being so pensive and putting a lot of energy into what if it doesn't happen, I would just say I'm ready. From a soft space, I'd say I'm ready for the gift of a child, and and I'm leaving room for it to happen at its own time. And I don't know if just changing the language
Yeah.
and changing the way you approach the situation from a softer, like more open and and less anxious place, I feel like you allow the universe to give you the room to give you that what you desire.
Exactly, because I think in those situations, again, like this example I was using with the pregnancy, I think, especially for women, that they are ready and they want to have a baby, and they're, you know, in a time that they feel they have a certain amount of time that they got to get pregnant, and when they're not, that anxiety goes up and that victim mentality that you were talking about. Well, what have I done? Is this,
Mm-hmm.
I must have done something wrong, and they go back in time and start thinking about like, well, maybe if I hadn't done this, and it's
Mm-hmm.
like as if they're either their body is punishing them, or universe, God, whatever you think, they're being punished.
Right.
And similar to what you were saying, I think it's just opening up yourself and reminding yourself everything's happening for a purpose. And
Mm-hmm.
when that time comes, when everything comes together, you will have that child. If you are meant to have a child, you will have that child in whatever shape or form. And
Right.
we get caught, I think, also in that situations with being victim. We become narrow focused rather than opening it up to that, yes, I can receive this in so many shapes and forms and in so many different ways. And in terms of a baby, yes, you could have a pregnancy. There's now artificial ways to do it. There's adoption. There's so many different ways.
Mm-hmm.
And opening yourself up, and like you said, taking care of yourself and releasing that fear and anxiety and opening up to a bigger space, bigger way. And again, those powers of the word that you mentioned earlier too, using those to
Absolutely.
release that blame or release that thing that, somehow you're being punished.
Yes, yes. Ultimately, be kind to yourself too.
Yeah.
Like you were saying, oftentimes when things don't go our way, we go back in time and reevaluate every single choice that might have not aligned with what we want now. And the best thing to do is to go back in time and just you say it's okay. Just reassure yourself that it's okay, and always and be kind to whatever choice that had been, and you realize that you just released a big, part of tension that has kind of clouded your decision making in the present. Once you get to that acceptance and kindness, and also to go back into reframing your words and the power of words. Once you do that, you you're the director of your story. You kind of have a little bit more say of what happens. So once you let the director of the story, and you're reclaiming your power, and you're in the position of like, okay, I'm calling the shots. This is not I'm not on autopilot. I'm calling the shots now. It becomes a little bit easier to navigate and make decisions, and be confident in whatever you do.
I love that. Director of your story.
Hmm.
And I actually have an artwork for that one. And
Nice.
director of your story, director of your life. We
Yes.
get to be creating this life, creating what we want. And I think, again, that the power of words that we're using, don't be laser focused on getting, I have to get this, and we get so focused on it that we're saying it has to come to me this way, it
Hmm.
has to come to me in this time frame. And we put so many barriers that it's like, if something's coming to us, it's sort of, I always say, it's got to go through this maze that you've developed in order to get to you,
Right.
rather than if you open that up and let it come in whichever shape or form, it's the best way for you to receive what you want. So when you're directing your life and you're directing what you want and putting those words and intentions out there, open it up,
Yes.
keep opening it, and be grateful for all that's coming, because you never know where you're trying to get to some place that
Hmm.
what's in front of you, you may not see the big picture, but if you trust that you're getting there, you'll see ultimately you're going to have more than what you've even asked for.
Absolutely. And I love what you said there. Trust where you're going, because it's not linear. Where like I realize it's not linear. There's gonna be lots of caveats. There's gonna be a lot of detours. And when you trust the journey, or when you trust where you're going, you leave room to accept and enjoy the journey of what the end destination. You'll get there, not in the time that you figured, or you're very goal oriented, and you wanted to get XYZ by this month, by this time. But when you focus too much at the end result or the end destination, you miss the beauty of the journey of getting there.
It is, and it is a journey. Every step of it. Again, if we, I love the word journey, because
Hmm.
and you're saying up and down. Up and down doesn't mean good or bad. Up
Right.
and down just means up and down. Sometimes you're going the scenic route. Sometimes you
Hmm.
want a little scary stuff in there. It's just how you're directing that and what you've asked for. I've not to give too much detail, because again, it's not my story; it's my son's story. But several years ago, we had something. He made a choice, and something happened, and he was crying, he was upset, and saying that this happened because I made this choice. I said, no, when you made that choice, I asked you, and you said it feels right to do it.
Mhm.
So don't look at what's happening now as a result of you making bad choice, but that this also what's happening right now, it's part of that, and it's going to get you ultimately to where you want to go. So don't
Right.
be focused on what's happening right now. Still trust that you chose your heart, chose what felt good, and keep doing that, and we're going to get there.
Yep.
And
Yep.
it took a good amount of year of this up and down that you're talking about, and him, through that up and down and through everything that happened, he found his voice,
Mhm.
he found his power,
Mhm.
he spoke his truth, and also at the end he got exactly what he wanted, which
There you
if
go.
you had asked me like, I don't know, 5 years ago, if what he wanted would be possible, I would be like, yeah, it's going to take a big miracle to get pull that one off. But
Right.
it happened.
Mhm. Mhm. And that's amazing. That's beautiful, and I'm glad it happened for him. And there's several, individual experiences that I've come to that realization. Never in a million years would I think that I would have joined the Navy, but I did. And within that journey, I was blessed with a lot of things. I met my girlfriend. I was able to experience DC. I'm in a position right now that I've dreamt of in the past, and it's like I like the uh, I like the outlook that some people say that we our souls have chose this life path for us before. Like
Mm-hmm.
there's certain lessons that we needed to learn in this certain experience, and we chose before we were born who we were going to be and what challenges we're going to experience. And I like that perspective because it kind of removes you from that linear victim mentality to like, okay, what what do I need to learn here in this lifetime? Like what are these lessons? Oh, okay, I have to be more patient. Oh, okay, you know I have to pay more attention to detail. I have to be more loving. I have to be more accepting, forgiving. So you find out the things that you need to be better at and work towards them, and it kind of deviates your mind from the outside in. I feel like.
No, that's perfect. I mean, my own journey, similar to what you were saying, is that I went through all those things. I did. I know I chose this lifetime to get to do what I'm doing now. And
Hmm.
everything that happened to me in my life was sort of my teaching ground. I
Hmm.
had to sort of practice all those things and learn those techniques for myself, and to be able to heal all those things in order to be
Hmm.
able to sit here and help the people that I'm helping. Had
Right.
I not, I wouldn't be able to. So all those things that happened to me, it wasn't, oh, poor me. Yes, I back then I used to say, oh, poor me. But then when I took a different angle, and I started down this, like what we talked about, went inside, it was like, no, all of those things. Look at that. I learned this, I learned this, I learned this technique, I learned, all was
Hmm.
just learning how to get to this place that now that I can help other people. And I definitely know I chose before coming here what I was going to do.
Wow. That's amazing, and you know that wholeheartedly, 100%. You
I
know for a
know,
fact. Wow.
I know, because I was very young and I knew, um, that's when I figured it out that I, I had the vision. I remembered I was really young, and that I wanted to be a healer. I wanted to
Wow.
do this work. And then that all started the process of all those things happening.
Hmm.
And, you know, at that age, you don't just come and say, I want to be a healer and
Hmm.
go with it. But I
Right.
remember wanting it and asking for it. And that's when I realized all, looking at what I asked for and seeing how my life was the training ground
Mhm.
to get
Mhm.
me to this point.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And I feel like that's empowering. That's very empowering, especially when you look at the times we're living in now, where you think it's everything, you look around you, everything is so chaotic. And you look at that perspective of like, I chose to be in this timeline at this point right now. You could reframe that and say, okay, so I chose to be in one of the most difficult times in history so I can make a difference.
Exactly.
So so if you chose to be in one of the most difficult times of the world, it's like you're important and you're powerful, and you can step into that power and make a contribution and make everything better.
Especially the younger generation.
Yeah, absolutely
There,
the best.
I feel like, again, me growing up with everything that had happened, still, I think the generation of younger kids today, it is so much more challenging for them with all that they've got going on. And
Mhm.
what you said is absolutely right. They are very powerful. I see it in them,
Mhm. Mhm.
that how their mind works, how they can shift is
Right.
just now. I'm hoping that the younger generation gets that understanding that we're talking about here, that you got to go inside.
Yeah.
You got to go inside, use that power you have. You're here for that purpose. You guys
Mhm.
are the generation to make the biggest impact and the biggest shift.
100%. 100%. And I see it too. With my little cousins, they retain information quick. They're very smart. They're intelligent. They're bright. They have it's evolution. They have things that we didn't have at
Mhm.
such a young age. And if all of them could hone these gifts and the power and realize that they have it, and you come together and utilize it for the good, it will be all in paradise.
I love that. All in paradise.
All in
All right.
paradise.
That's it. We're closing on that one.
That's it. That's it.
All in paradise.
That's it.
Everybody, I just to go back with the key points that we brought up today. Uh, Thanks to Samir, don't go inside that victim mentality. Instead, look at reframe it and see it in a different light, different frame. Tell a different story. You are the director of your life. You are the director of your story. And use the words that have an energy for you, that you can connect with, that take you. Use the power of words, use the power of mantras, affirmations to reprogram um, that story that's been going on for so long. And yes, we
Exactly.
are going to be living in a paradise soon.
Yes, indeed. It's coming.
It's coming.
It's coming. I'm ready. I know you are too,
I'm
sir.
ready to. Let's go.
All right. Thanks for
Thank
having me
you,
again.
guys. Thank you. Thank you, guys, for coming and watching the show or listening to it on the podcast. Please share, like, comment, and if you have any questions for Samir and I, please put it in the comments, send us a text, and we'll be happy to answer it. And if you have topics that you want us to cover, please let us know. Have a wonderful evening, morning, whenever you're watching this. Thank you, guys.
Thanks
Bye.
for having me. Bye bye.